builder? Is there a D&D deck builder?
Tyrants
That's
of
what
the
Dragonfire
Underdark
is gonna be.
pretty similar too.
Ah, gotcha.
But yeah, Tyrants of the
I
Underdark is
remember.
one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I think we talked briefly about that one maybe before, because that one's based on. What's that one based on?
The Underdark, I'm assuming.
It's based on the. Is it that one? The one that's based on the Harry Potter game or something like that? The Harry Potter.
No, that's the Battle of Hogwarts.
Dragonfire. I thought they took the fire from another game. Is it like? Because like the other game is called something fire.
There's Dragonfire.
Skullfire.
Skull's Fire. I thought that it was. I don't know. Whatever, man. My brain is fried from all the time I spent in the sun today at our district tournament.
Okay, yeah, okay. So it's if you look in their FAQ, they're talking about Crossfire, which was a deck building engine developed by Shadowrun.
Shadowrun Crossfire. That's what it is. It's based on that.
Yeah, so it's built upon that engine.
Okay.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, that's it. All right. I've already started the broadcast here, which I think we end up with about 5 accidental views of this live broadcast every time we do it, because yeah, I like our finished product that Josh puts out much more so than this sort of live thing. I suppose we could have more group participation, but yeah, well. Anyway, we're not going to have
the live thing anyway, so I mean.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's how I have to do it. It's what I do now instead of like the Mumble backup file. This is what we got. So,
gotcha.
This is our backup file.
Hey, before we start recording, I kind of wanted to bring something up and see how you guys felt about this. I may have been able to find us a sponsor.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what we need a sponsor for. I don't know if it's something that could help with either equipment or something like that, or covering maybe like a better server for Mumble or something better. But you know that Gamergy that we sell at the store?
Yeah.
They may be able to sponsor us. So
all right.
It would just be like an ad we would have on there.
Sure. Is Gamergy like a pretty small thing, or is it?
Right now it is, but it's actually building up pretty quickly.
Where is it out of?
I think Chicago.
Okay.
That was chunky.
Yep.
So.
Well,
John? I'd be happy to record use my weird messed up voice for an ad for them.
Yeah, and then we could just put that at the end or somewhere in the episode.
It would probably be something like in the beginning or something like that, just like kind of beforehand. But I mean, this is just. Before I have any information, I just kind of wanted to throw by you guys. If you still wanted me to continue to see what other information, or if you guys just want me to put the kibosh on it now, it's up to you guys.
I mean, I'm fine. Here, let's put it like this, man. I'm fine. Here's what I think, a direction we could head in is maybe do like giveaways, where I don't know how much they are okay with shipping like a crate of this stuff out, but I think we could maybe run a contest.
Sure.
And then maybe do it through, I don't know if we do it through the guild or if we just do it through something, but where we have our listeners, sign up in some sort of a way, try to give us some sort of information about themselves. And then, we choose like 2 people, and we do this like maybe once every couple of months, where we choose 2 people to then send out like a crate of the, like a 12-pack of this Gamergy stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, even if it's like a monetary sponsorship, we could use that money for like giveaway for like games.
Yeah, exactly. We could give away like a gift card to a game, to a game thing or something like that.
Yeah. Or and what we could do on that sense is, as part of the giveaway, have like people who do surveys. Which is kind of something I've been wanting to do, is like a survey that people would actually do to kind of ask questions about what would they like to hear from us. How do you think?
Yeah, getting our like listener participation up. Like, I want to hear more. Like, what percentage of you, what percentage of you play this type of game? What percentage of you like to hear about this type of game? Maybe even just to sort of funnel my own acquisition disorder, because in a lot of ways, well, I know we'll get to this when we get into the episode, but like, I feel like I'm never important enough by myself to justify 95% of the games I'm actually interested in purchasing. And so many times I'm like, oh, well, I'll like this, and so will, like, and it's usually the people in my life that are not gamers, because I feel like I'm sort of buying on behalf of them.
I did a lot of that with the wife for a while and then had to stop.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting. Okay, well, we'll say this for the
episode.
We'll
talk about that, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I appreciate that that's something that you've been looking into, John, and I think it'd be, I don't care, man. I'm totally cool with hiring out the podcast to help promote, somebody who's marketing something to gamers. And I honestly think, like I said, it's, trying to get our listeners more engaged in the process is something that'd be cool. I don't know that I'm the perfect person for knowing exactly how to do that. Sure. But I think that, like, free stuff, people are interested in that. And I could get creative when I have a little more time in my hands now, with tennis pretty much coming to a close within the next couple of weeks. So
sure.
If the company wants semi-disturbing marketing, I'm willing to step up to the plate.
I really think that Trent just needs to be their spokesperson anyway. Like,
I'm not going to lie. I kind of one day was always hoping to pursue my career of wanting to be a voiceover actor. So I was hoping to be, the one to record a commercial, but you don't.
I think you guys both do it. Yeah, I think you need to find a way, John, to write it to work Trent's, like, the lowest voice, like the brown noise that Trent's able to hit.
Yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I like the brown noise. Trent,
Just
your voice makes people do.
Whispering brown noise just in the background of John's.
If you haven't pooped yourself throughout this,
stomach's getting rumbly. I'm pretty sure they would not appreciate their product being associated with pooping your pants.
Especially when it's a consumable.
Exactly. You'll shit yourself how good it is.
It makes you go brown.
The iron bowels you can only achieve through Gamer G. All right, guys.
Yeah, Gamer G, get it out before the game day.
All right, I'm gonna hit record here in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm your host, Joe Sallin, and we have the full panel on tonight, starting with
Jonathan Pierce,
Andrew Dennison,
Trent Ham,
and as you can hear, it's all 4 of our regular returning hosts, and it's just great to have everybody back together. We're all together. We're here. We're going to talk to you guys tonight about the thing that generally fuels us actually needing jobs, which is acquisition disorder, otherwise known as the need to have things.
Jobs.
Yes, must has things. The reason that John is so frequently not able to play games is because he has to have more of them. Yes, and in many ways, I think that that can be said about myself too. There's, like I wouldn't be going out there and trying to get money if I didn't have something that I knew that I needed or wanted it for. So we'll talk to you guys about where it is and when it is that we pull triggers when we make game purchases, what sort of inspires that, and whether. And I really think Andy's the main guy driving force behind this. He's got a lot of interesting perspectives because anybody who's listened to our show in the past and has heard Andy talk about his situation, he is in a very interesting budgetary limits, and he always seems to have these interesting ways of I don't know, an interesting form of logic, to say the least. We'll get to our topic though. Before we do that, we will review games, and on our way out the door, we'll hype the games. So let's go ahead and kick it off here with a review coming at you from old Jonathan himself. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about a new game that is not quite really that available in the United States, but I've heard it's been making a pretty big sweep around some pretty small circles. So tell us a little bit about Capital.
Sure. Capital is the game that I'm going to be reviewing today. This is a kind of city builder tile drafter. I know Joe had mentioned it kind of being I don't want to say killer of Seven Wonders, but at least a competition to Seven Wonders. And I would put it as Seven Wonders-esque, but I think different enough to not be a killer, and definitely I think more geared towards the gaming hobbyist instead of just the more casual gamer. Now that's not to say it is a heavy game. It is not by any means necessary. There is, as with any drafting game, a bit of luck involved with this one in the sense of the cards that are the tiles rather, that are initially dealt with to you. How the game is played is there are a total of, I want to say, 6 rounds. Sounds about right. Each round, you're given tiles. You pass them as you would any draft. You pick one, pass the rest down, as you do in any other drafting game. These tiles are then made to build your city. Each district of your city has different colors. So you got your green, red, yellow, blue, purple. Your greens are your parks. Your reds are your residential. Your blues, I don't even remember what they're called. Same thing with the purple. But each one has its own different ways of either scoring you points or getting you money. So your greens will get you money for every residential that they're near, that they're touching, based on your one big green. So like your largest park. And your reds or your yellows get money based on how many residentials they're near. So the reds.
So a little bit of engine building, because these are going to happen several times throughout the game.
Exactly. Yep. So pretty much you're having to balance points and money. So at the beginning, you're very little money. So you're going to focus a little bit more on that at the beginning. And you're able to make a 4x3 city, and you're also allowed to place tiles on top of each other. You're also given monuments that you can earn by either random events such as person with the most yellow districts, person with the largest green district, things like that. And they give you kind of ways to get more points or more money. Couple interesting things. I think it's at the end of, because I guess the whole point of the game is that you're making a town in Poland, and it's different ages. So by turn, I think it's 3, you have to discard a tile because of World War I. Turn 4, at the end, you have to discard 2 tiles because of World War III.
World War III?
Or not, I'm sorry, World War I, World War II. I don't know where.
Okay, I was going to say, like, yeah.
I skipped
it's interesting,
a war.
like, because this is all kind of tied to the history of the city of Warsaw, right? That's like the...
Yes, but to be honest, that is the only theme in the game.
Oh, okay.
So, like, that's it. It's Poland. It was a decent game. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's not a heavy game by any stretch of the imagination. You can kind of easily be in the back in the first half of the game.
Jeez, Andy.
And then,
sorry, I had mute on.
Sorry, Andy decided to belch.
Sorry,
on me.
Josh, you're so wonderful for editing this out. You know what? Keep that in there. And Andy, this Andrew Dennison does voice work, does guttural voice work for anybody out there looking for it.
Wow. Andrew Dennison has a not properly functioning digestive system. That's my problem.
Oh, now you made it all about.
Now it's
come on.
Yep,
Thanks, Andy. Yep. The burp was okay. Don't talk about your digestive system.
It's part of the digestive. Oh God, you people who don't know.
He's such a scientist. He's burping the chat for science.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, so back to the game. I would recommend this one over Seven Wonders for, like I said, the hobbyist gamers. Mainly because I know a lot of them are either done with Seven Wonders or never liked Seven Wonders to begin with. If you never liked Seven Wonders to begin with, this may not be the game for you, just because it is kind of in that realm of like drafting. It is a drafting game. It's just with the city building aspect.
Question, John.
Yes.
Have you ever played Between Two Cities, otherwise known as Between Two Ferns?
Yes. Actually, really funny thing about that. When this game was brought up, Jacob, the one who had brought the game, has said, what we're going to play is Between One City.
So you just have your own city.
Pretty much. That's what it is. It is pretty much Between One City. I've only played Between Two Cities once, and that was like a year and a half ago, so I can't quite remember how that one was played out. So, but this, I do remember it being kind of like this, just in I think a lot smaller scale. So like I said, I would recommend it. It gets higher than a meh, and I'll give it's pretty good.
Okay.
Resounding endorsement.
Right? Seal of approval.
I mean, just artistically, it's nothing special by any stretch of the imagination. The colors themselves are almost blah. The monuments are more kind of just pictures of Polish monuments. So I mean, just don't expect.
Yay.
Yeah, and like I said, when it comes to theme, I mean, it's just you're in Poland and during this time frame, and World War I happens, World War II happens, and it's just because to make you lose 2 tiles. They could have not said World War I, World War II. They could have just said lose 2 tiles, and I would have been exactly the same emotion coming out of it.
I see, like, John, the things like losing a tile in World War I, losing a tile in World War II, and the Polish like monuments keep drawing me to this game. But your characterization of it as like between one city, which like to me, like between 2 cities is a pretty simple system. I think this one might do a little bit different because your tiles have like multiple mini tiles on them, right? Like
yes, they do. So yeah, each tile is not just one color. And I mean, in the beginning, like with the turn 1 tiles, it seems like a lot of them are, but by the time you're at like turn 3 or 4, yeah, you could have 4 separate districts, and orienting them in particular ways is actually going to be fairly important for you.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in the game based on your sort of like a lot of what you said. I don't know if I'd be interested in it for the same reasons you are,
sure.
That you liked about it, but I'd love to give this one a shot.
I would absolutely recommend this game. Like I said, it's not that it was a bad game. It's not that it was a great game. It's just like I said, an above a meh.
Well, thanks, John. Anybody else have anything to say?
Sounds like between one city.
The Warsaw part of it, like to me, is like it's gonna be different. But yeah, it's between one city, and that city is Warsaw. Welcome to Warsaw. All right, so that was between one city, and now let's move on to the next review that I've really been excited to know about because I'm currently like wondering, should I get this game the same way as I was with John's review of Capital? Trent, could you tell us a little bit about a game in a series of games?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Exit the Game, and I'm going to talk specifically about the Secret Lab because it's the one I played through. Exit the Game is a very inexpensive board game. I think it cost about $11 or $12 online. I don't really know the cost. I was not involved in the purchase. It's supposed to simulate an escape room. It's published by Cosmos, and it's designed by the Inga and Marcus Brand, who have designed a bunch of games, Village among them. And it plays from 1 to 6 players. But I'll be honest with you, I would never play this with more than 4. I don't think there's enough simultaneously going on to afford more than 4 players at the table. I think you could squeeze in more, but I think 4 is really the sweet number for this. Okay, so basically what you get in the box is you get this little you get like a big deck of cards that's split up into 3 smaller decks. That's like clue cards and basically clue cards and puzzle cards and hint cards, I think is what they are. And then there's also a little book in there that kind of describes the scenario. In this case, it was like a research lab that things had gone awry. And then you get the interesting component, I thought, was this really cleverly designed, I guess, code device, I think is what they call it in the thing. But it's basically like a multi-tiered wheel that you occasionally have to spin and line up symbols. And it gives you a number, and you need that several times to progress into the story because you need to know what it's essentially doing is it's telling you which card to go look at certain points. This wheel is used across a variety of puzzles. I think there's at least 10 puzzles that you end up going through in this. But what this in essence is, what this ends up boiling down to, is this card is basically a sequence of puzzles spread out over cards and over a pamphlet. The pamphlet's like 8, 10, 12 pages, something like that. I remember it wasn't really long. And I'm trying really hard not to be spoilerish because I don't know how to do this without starting to spoil stuff. But basically, there's combinations of information that's in the pamphlet and some small subset of the cards, which you use to solve a puzzle. And then you go to the wheel to check your solution, and then it gives you a number, and then you go look at that number on another place on another card, and it tells you whether you got it right or not. Essentially, you are trying to get all of them correct and do it as fast as you can, and there's a scoring system that kind of tells you how good you did in the end. Kind of like an escape room, really. You do have an overall time limit, but in my experience, like the time limit is absurdly long. You don't need all the time. I'd say people that have done escape rooms can probably get through this in an hour. And the rules, I don't remember what they allot, but it's like 2 hours or some absurdly long. You don't need that much time. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how you could simulate an escape room better with a take-home game than this, unless you were talking about something that had like $100 worth of components. I think for what it is, and the fact that it's $12, it does a really good job of simulating it. It feels like you're doing timed puzzles with a lot of variety to them, and they're cleverly done, and they overall link together to kind of tell a story, and that's really what you'd want from a take-home escape room game. Okay, I enjoyed it, but obviously with a game like this, there's a few drawbacks. You can only really play it once, because once you know it, you can't really play it again. Okay? Now, the saving grace of this is that at least it's only like $12, okay? You're not investing a ton of money in it, and it's something you're going to play as a group. I mean, that's going to be enjoyable. The bad part about this is that I think that at least this one, I don't know how you do it without destroying some of the game components.
Oh, yeah, so, I think that's the idea, is that they're going to sell more copies of this because you have to.
I can conceive of a way. There's one of the puzzles in it where I don't know how you even do it without destroying game components. There are some others I can see really easy how you do it without destroying game components, but it's made a lot simpler at the table if you destroy game components. One of them, I'd have to sit down and think about whether or not how you would do that without damaging something. I'm not really sure whether or not you could or not. I will say stencils are involved. That might give a little bit of a hint, but it's the instruction manual tells you to keep scissors nearby. I'm saying that, like, the enjoyment of the puzzle, you need to just accept you're trashing this game. I think if you just accept that this is $12 on the tubes, and if you're playing it with 4 players, that's $3 each. It's not killing you. And if you just accept that and go with it and have fun for that hour, it's $3 worth of fun. I think definitely in an hour with 4 people. I think if you enjoy escape rooms, this is not the same as an escape room. I think if you're realistically expecting this to be an escape room, you're going to be like, this isn't good. But if you're looking for the idea of a timed sequence of interesting puzzles that kind of have an overall story going together, the puzzles are enjoyable, you're kind of working together on them, you're trying to beat the clock. If that's the kind of things you enjoy about an escape room and are willing to shell out $3 with 4 other friends for an hour and a half worth of entertainment, this is pretty good. I would be willing to play the other ones. I'd be willing to throw out $3 to play one of the other ones with 3 other friends. So, I mean, I don't know what else I can say.
Would you pay the whole $12 to buy it for your family and do it with your family?
Yeah, I think I would. I could see me doing it with my wife and my 2 oldest kids.
I think they've got the price down here in terms of, like, the escape room experience, because, like, let's just think about what there is to compare it with. There is the Stargazer's Manor is one that I have, Escape from Stargazer's Manor, and I think the list price on that one's like $30. And then there's an escape room, the game, that comes with like 3 different escape rooms, and it has like kind of a device, like a plastic device that's kind of like a decoder sort of thing that's, I think, has some electronic.
Yeah, this is just a cardboard wheel, the decoder ring in this, and it's really cleverly done. I liked how it was done. I mean,
I think that sounds more along the lines of the Mystery at Stargazer's Manor, because that one uses like a decoder wheel. I've opened it and I've seen it.
Yeah, I could definitely see me, like, for a fun, like on Father's Day, we want to do something as a family. This would be a fun little Father's Day gift. We blow through it, we do it together, we chuck it in the trash and say, yay, we had fun. I think for that, this is really good. I think you can see 2 couples having a lot of fun with this. I can say that I felt like a couple of the puzzles would be very hard for especially my middle child. My older child might take some stabs at it, but I think he would whiff too. There's definitely in this one, there were a couple that were like, We had to. I would say 80% of the time was spent on three of the 10 puzzles.
Huh.
So
you
take
just
that
kinda
for what
get
you will.
stuck. And I think that's kind of like the idea of an escape room, though. Is like usually you just kind of get stuck, and it feels like you just keep running into the same like, well, this isn't the solution to the puzzle, and you try it, and it's different for everybody because it's it's like those esoteric games of yore, like the adventure games, point and click, like Myst, where
I love Myst.
I firmly believe the only way to figure anything out in that game is to somehow catch the exact obscure brainwave that the designers were on when they made it. Like the reason that you come up with like the reasoning behind the solutions to the puzzles just seems to me like you just have to count everything in the game and then know that all of these numbers are potential answers to every single puzzle I ever see, and then just sort of type them all in. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I'm ignoring, but that's when I played all the way through Myst, I did it with a guide, and the guide did not make sense to me. It was just like...
There's supposedly coming out in the next few months. I can't remember what they're called, but they seem to be just decks of cards, and they're made by the people that make Time Stories that are supposed to simulate this type of escape room, but it requires you to use your smartphone.
Well, that sounds actually interesting.
Hold on, that one's called Unlock. That's the name of that one.
Huh. Well, the Time Stories, this is a big phenomenon. And the Time Stories game is trying to do something totally different, I think. It's trying to mix together like an awfully designed game with this sort of system. And I think that, taking that, all the pieces that cause the base game to cost $60 and all this like incredibly detailed artwork that's nice, but, once you've seen it, it's not worth the extra $30 per module you have to pay. Like that. I think that Unlock sounds to me like it could take the stuff that frustrates me out of Time Stories out. Here's what I would say, Trent, is the escape rooms are huge and people love going to escape rooms. I've done I want to say about 5 or 6 of them, and every one that I've done has at the least cost like $15 per person to everybody who's done it. Which, I mean, that's a lot of money right there. We've shelled out, groups, I've had groups where we didn't have any discounts. And so it cost like $30 a person. And we had, like 5 or 6 people in our group. So that's almost $200 just for, 5 people for an hour, 6 people for an hour. And I think, though, that it's kind of like comparing, the video games that you can download on like Xbox Live Arcade or PlayStation Store, where they're pinball games. Like the pinball where it's only $10 and it comes with 12 tables. But let's all be honest, if you go to the pinball, to an actual pinball machine, or if you buy an actual pinball machine, you're dropping thousands of dollars. But you really can't compare those two. I think
this isn't an escape room, and I don't think that you can have. I honestly don't think you can have a real escape room experience at home. I don't think it works. I don't think you can simulate an escape room in your house. So what you're looking for is something that gives you what you enjoy about it. And I thought this is an enjoyable experience, considering it's effectively $3 if you're playing it with 4 people.
I agree with you there, though. I don't think any existing product does that. I've had them done at my school where there was like a small kit, like a little toolbox that had kind of instructions to a specific staff member on how to set it up for everybody else. And they use some online sort of things to try to, bring the escape room experience from being in a different location to, like a classroom or something, where you'd be able to use, like VR type things, which were very interesting. Also, I'd like to point out that coming out soon, and I'll be getting it because I backed it, is Escape Room in a Box. And I've been participating. I've been getting all these updates from this Kickstarter project, Escape Room in a Box, that is now I want to say about 7 or 8 months behind schedule delivering. But they've been really good on sending updates because they literally have locks. There are padlocks in this box, and they're set to a very specific solution. And what they were finding is that in shipping, one of their padlocks was actually getting shook to where it would reset, and then it would break the entire experience. So they had to delay by another month while they purchased different locks I mean, that's the type of thing. Like, it's such an incredibly detailed experience that I think that there hasn't been anybody quite attempt what this Kickstarter has, and I'm excited to see how it goes. But in the end, Trent, I think you've got to think, what are you playing it for? Are you doing it for the immersion factor that you want to be at a real escape chamber? If so, then this might be the only product, and even then, it's probably not going to be the same. Or are you doing it because you like solving these sorts of puzzles and you're okay with making a little bit of an imagination leap? And to me, it sounds like I want to try this now. You've intrigued me.
And I mean, if you hate it, honestly, like MSRP on it is $14.85. I went and looked it up.
It's like an hour of your time. Like, time to me is the bigger commitment than money most of the time with games anyway, which is, I guess, something to save for our topic. But yeah, like, it's only an hour and $12 to me. Like, you can pack a lot of really good things inside that sort of a 12, like an hour long thing if you've thoughtfully laid it out. Like, the difference between your 250-hour campaign of Fallout 4, which I'm sure there are listeners out there who are like, oh my God, I love that. That's generally not my style. I would prefer to play like a 10-hour campaign of a video game that's a lot more like focused and what Fallout 4 players would think of as like hand-holding. But, I just like to feel like I'm getting the experience that was crafted with everything that I might get frustrated with in mind. Yeah, it's just me wanting it to be, I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too, I guess. All right, well, thanks, Trent. That's escape room, exit the room, right?
That's exit the game.
Exit the game, okay. And that moves us right along here to, well, I'm going to talk about my game. I'm not going to talk for long because it's more of a first impression here. And I think it's important to give a first impression with this specific type of game because I feel like if you caught me in 2-3 weeks after I've played this game about 5 or 6 times, I might actually re-review it. I think, Andy, that you're onto something there with your initial thoughts on games. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the game Clank. Clank is a deck-building game that's based on the same structure as Ascension. Spoiler alert, I hate Ascension. I just don't like how random the card drafting line is. I think that there's very few decisions in the game, and they're very obvious most of the time. I feel like it just kind of turns into autopilot a lot of times where there's just some cards that are better than others to get at certain times, especially in the late game when you've got finally built this huge engine for making lots of points by building up, converting from the one resource to the other resource to try to get your big point cards, and then there's no monsters to fight, and thus you get to fight a series of cultists that's just demeaning because they're only worth 1 point for every 2 swords you can get. Anyway, don't like Ascension, so let me use that as a staging for the game Clank because it uses just basically the same idea as Ascension. But what have they added to Ascension? A board. They've added a board and a bag and a bunch of cubes. And the idea is that you are using your starting deck of cards to dive into a dungeon. And you have to start at the top level, which is kind of above ground. You're starting in this castle level, and there's no artifacts in the castle level. You have to get beyond that. And your cards are going to have multiple. I actually think there's multiple currencies. Actually, there's 3 different currencies in this game because you've got your fight, your movement, and your stuff that you use to acquire cards. I don't know what they actually call it. Let's just call it mojo. So you're going to use that to get new cards. You're going to then use your movement to move around. You're going to use your fight to. Sometimes you've got passages that you need to fight with swords to be able to avoid taking wounds. And this whole time, you're also going to be creating a new negative resource, maybe consider it like the junk sort of stuff that you get in the game Trains, where you end up with trash cards getting added to your deck. But in this game, it's added in the form of cubes in your color that get added to a Clank pile. Because this is you making noise and you attracting the dragon. You have to take these every time that a certain cube, or not a certain cube, every time that a card with a picture of a dragon gets flipped up from the deck when replenishing at the end of a player's turn, replenishing the Ascension game card drafting line, then you will take all the cubes from the clank pile, throw them into a bag that has a lot of neutral cubes, and you'll draw out a certain amount based on how far into the game you are. And the farther you are into the game, the more cubes get drawn out. And if your cubes get drawn out, you have taken damage. And you can heal that damage with cards, but if you ever take all the damage, then either you are eliminated from the game. If you are diving deep into the dungeon, you're below ground, you die. And you are out of the game. You don't count your score, you're just done. If you are above ground, the villagers save you. And your main penalty is that you don't get what's called a mastery token for escaping the dungeon, which is worth 20 points. So the way that the game is structured is you're going to be diving into this dungeon and seeing how far you want to get to hopefully still then get out. Because once a player gets out, it sort of starts a game timer where you basically have 4 more turns before you auto die, and every round there are more and more cubes drawn out of this bag, because the dragon is trying to come get you or whatever. So the thing that's nice about this board is that you kind of have some strategy that you can make. Like, there is a constant in the game of Ascension. You've got this constant where that the artifact that's further down is going to be worth more points. So there is a certain amount of just guaranteed constants that you can count on and actually form a strategy. The cards themselves have the same sort of balance issues that Ascension has, where I feel like some cards are just better than others. But it doesn't, to me, strike me as just being so frustrating, where you feel like you just draw a hand, you can't do anything with it. I feel like that can happen here in Ascension, but it's a lot less common. So in general, though, my thoughts on Clank are, I love the way that it takes that Ascension game and actually makes it work for me by having a constant of a board to sort of cohere the game together. I also really love how the game has these just chuckle-worthy thematic explanations. As you read a card, you understand why this card, like you can purchase a single-use card from the draft row that does not go into your deck, and it gives you 2 movement because you found a ladder. It's like you've used your mojo to find a ladder and use it. And I like that. I like how the stack of cards is so much better fleshed out than just the really basic Dominion-esque structure of Ascension that just doesn't work because it's mechanically bare. Here in Clank, it's thematically deep, mechanically more nuanced than Ascension because of the board. And that's my thoughts on Clank.
I want to play it.
I think that this would be great for you, John. That's beyond great for you.
Yeah.
I'd play it.
I'm not sure how you'd feel about it, Trent. I wonder if you'd like playing it with your family, maybe.
I don't know, maybe.
Andy, this would be your game of the year, though.
What? I was watching Kitten Academy on YouTube.
I thought you only did that for John. Are you doing it for me now?
Well done, Andy. Well
All
done.
right, then. We're moving on from Clank to talk about Andy's initial thoughts on a game that I don't care. I'm going to go get onto YouTube videos and...
Yeah, I'm going to go put up Hello Kitty Island Adventure now.
That works. So anyway, I'm going to, I guess, just briefly give some initial thoughts and interest on the game Continental Divide, or since the train games that people refer to as cube rails. These are often on the Winsome game varieties. And I got to play Continental Divide last weekend, and I don't know, I've just been really thinking about it a lot, what I could have done differently, how it worked. And the main reason I think that is, initially, I think I didn't think a whole lot about this style of game, that it was, it was kind of like 18xx for people who aren't ready to play 18xx games kind of thing. And, which is being an arrogant butt about it, but that's what I thought. But then I got to play this one. I was just like, whatever, let's give it a shot. And then it really intrigued me because what I did naturally was, I got a lot of 18xx experience. Let's put those ideas into play here. And then I did that, and I'm like, wow, this does not work at all. That strategy of using those skills that work in 18xx games did not work at all in cube rails. And so that got me thinking a lot. It's like, okay, well, why didn't it work? What could I have done differently? What should I have tried instead of what I tried? And my brain's just been rolling around with these ideas for like 4 or 5 days now. And I really want to play more of them and try them again and see if I can figure out how this system works differently than what I'm used to in 18xx games and Age of Steam games. I don't know. It's just really fascinating. And they all have their own little sort of, intricacies as well. And so it's a little bit of like initial thoughts on Continental Divide, but just more of my idea of, whoa, there's more game here than I thought there was. And so, I really want to try a lot of them. I want to play Continental Divide again. I want to give Chicago Express a try. Other ones that I might be able to get my hands on, although that can be quite difficult because if they're Winsome games, they're really, really hard to find unless they've been reprinted by Queen, in which case you might be able to find them really cheap on Amazon.
Yes.
Another one recently.
Extremely cheap.
Yeah. And so anyway, I don't know. I think, my review is more like, just whoa, there's more game here than I thought there was. Like, it's not as crazy complex as an 18xx can get, but there's more here than I thought there was, and it's a completely different way of approaching the economic game puzzle, which has my wheels and gears turning just thinking about, okay, how do I figure out this system? And so I want some more experience with it. So that's Continental Divide, but more broadly, really just the cube rails system of train games.
Yeah, I think that, the cube rails are really, I don't know, some of them are much more economic, like the ones where you end the game and you get a certain amount based on your points, or not points, money. And that I think is, that's your general cube rails. I think Continental Divide is the reason that it challenges that cube rails schematic, is because you're getting points for something that's very arbitrarily set by the rules. Not just like the most money. How can you finagle your way into the best economic situation here? You've got to really wrestle with how you're going to approach the end game and how points are going to be doled out as you are playing the game. And I think that that's something that shows just how these Winsome games really present some interesting explorations. Though let's just put it like this, that sometimes they can feel a little bit like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm play testing one a little bit. Like I need to sort of write the designer and be like, hey, this is what happened in our game. And he's going to, be like, okay, well, thanks for your input. We'll fix that in the next version.
I don't know. The general thing I get off a lot of Board Game Geek forums, because I went around playing around in them when people had complaints. Like the general response of a lot of people was like, oh, here's how you fix that. Don't suck.
Well, yeah, most of them, it's like, my complaint is this. And they're like, yeah, that's something that can happen. You got to know that and you got to do something about it. And it's like, well, yeah. And I don't know, my reasoning for, like, mechanically, it doesn't make much sense to me. Thematically, I can't justify it. And they're just kind of like, it's just the game. Deal with it.
Yep.
How did you respond, Joe, the first time you played Dominion and somebody won by beating you with big money?
With big money?
Yeah, just like, did you say this game sucks because big money is broken and then go on Board Game Geek and complain about it?
No,
This is effectively but that's effectively what you're doing. Like, you hit upon like the first strategic bump in the process of learning a game, and the game sucks.
I don't think that the Dominion big money strategy is a good comparison. I never had a problem with the big money strategy in Dominion. I mean, it's just like I have never seen anybody beat a high level Dominion player with the big money. I mean,
boom, there you go, high level Dominion player. Do you think any of us sitting at that table the other night were high-level Continental Divide players?
I don't think so. I think that no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I just don't feel like it was much of a cube rails game because of the way that it was structured. And I think that they just, I mean, it shows how different they are. That there could be one that feels like it feels like a totally different genre than other cube rails games.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm intrigued about. I don't know, there's a lot of ways to approach them, but I don't know. The thing I like about, I think the thing that intrigued me about it, kind of like the thing that intrigues me about an 18xx game, is there's no, and this is, well, I guess the only way I could put it is like hand holding. It's kind of like a Splotter game. You approach it, you try something, the first few times you probably fall on your face. Like, you have to kind of figure out what the game needs to do well in. There's not a whole lot of coaching or this is an obvious thing you should be doing in them. And I don't know, that's the kind of thing I tend to appreciate in games, which is why I think it has me thinking about it so much.
Well, here's the thing, Andy. I think that the way Continental Divide is really different. I don't know. The reason that you've mentioned before, you've voiced before that you really like 18xx games because you have this general familiarity with the system, and you get to see how these new wrinkles make you explore, but apply a lot of your pre-constructed like heuristics of what's best to do in a game situation. So you generally have like an idea of what's normally good in an 18xx game, but you get to see how this game offers a new wrinkle on that. I would say Continental Divide, like, to me, it doesn't feel like other Cube Rails games because you end up with just a boatload of money at the end of the game and have nothing that you can really do with it that makes points. And I would say, though, that, like, it's a kind of a strange limitation that the game imposes on you. But when I went online and said, like, this feels kind of weird that you can't do this, the last round of the game felt like this is something you can do, and everybody just kind of jumped on and was like, yeah, that's what you can do in this game. It's just, you have to understand that and then go into it knowing that. And to me, it seems like I'm wrestling more with a weird rule than I am wrestling with like a game system and a mechanism. It feels more, it's just kind of like the designer wanted you to do this in the early game, and then that same rule, though, because it's still present in the late game, is more of like a noose around your neck. And I don't know how to say it without getting any more into details.
Well, yeah, but I think the thing with that is the thing I got out of it is it's hard to tell anything at this point about it like that, because I don't know, like, I don't feel that any of us played particularly well. We were all just trying things, and I think that game would fold out completely differently in different settings. Like, I guess that's why I want to try something different, because one of the things that left us feeling weird is that there were companies left at the end of the game, and maybe they isn't supposed to do that. Maybe
I think we were all playing it like it's an economic game, and it's not actually an economic game. I think that's the problem. Is like we were all sitting there like, I want to make the most money, and I felt like at the end of every round we'd be like, oh, I made $40, and everybody else at the table would be like, I need to make $40. I need to make more than that because that's how I'm going to win this game. And that's not the case. Like it is much more about like just starting up a company for the sole purpose of getting points.
Right.
Without caring about what, how much money that railway makes, which is it's weird. And it's what makes the game different.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe one of the things we weren't doing well was that game might be more about how can I most efficiently convert this money into points, and that
which is more like a Euro game thing is what it is. That to me sounds like Euro.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing is it was kind of like an economic game with a Euro scoring mechanic on the end, and so how does that change things in the end? And that's kind of what I'm intrigued about is, okay, well, that's how this game did it. How might a different game do it? How might a different game handle that? And so it seems like a system that would be interesting to explore, and I think definitely more interesting to explore than I was giving it credit for.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm interested in exploring it too. I mean, now that we understand the way that things are going to go, I'm behind you there. The cube rail system definitely. I don't know if Continental Divide even fits into it. I guess you have cubes that represent rails, and if that's the only requisite, then sure. But yeah, there's a lot more going on here, and
That's the
I
only
think
one I've played too. So.
Well, you played Chicago Express or Paris Connection.
I've not played that one yet.
Paris Connection.
Yeah, Paris Connection I played. Yeah, but that's kind of like a super simple intro filler to that kind of. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see how they go, because I agree with you though, Andy. Maybe these are the ones where it's like this economic game where this exploration is really sort of condensed into something that I'm going to be right there with you. So I look forward to our explorations of cube rails together.
Oh, good.
Off into the sunset, or our topic. Let's Andy, since you're on the floor right now, why don't you tell me, what is it that inspired what inspired you to make acquisition disorder a theme of our podcast?
Yeah, well, let me first, I guess, say what I mean by that, because it's one of those things I want to make sure everyone's on the same page with. So acquisition disorder is often referred to this idea that as a board gamer, it's kind of the, oh my gosh, this is cool, I must own it. Oh my gosh, this is cool, I must own it. And kind of some people refer to it as cardboard crack, the, like bling, oh, I must buy. So it's just this kind of explosion of an exponential growth of your collection of board games. And, the reason it can be referred to as acquisition disorders, it can lead to a lot of like weird situations. And for me particularly, what I have been struggling with in the last year is a few things related to this is like, how have my tastes as a gamer changed? How does that then affect what games I'm going to buy? And then how does that affect what games I'm going to keep? And just some weird things. Like I have found that acquiring games should be a relaxing part of my hobby, but I found it could actually lead to some form of stress because, I try to limit my budget. Like I got a family and we got expenses. I can't buy just everything I see. And so you can fall into the stress of, but that game looks awesome, I should own it, but I can't afford it. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like that can be a source of stress. It can also be a source of stress if you find your collection growing too fast to your ability to play it. And that's kind of been a real source of stress for me in the last few months, is that I bought kind of all these games last year when I was sort of switching to being much more of a heavy gamer. And then I was finding I wasn't getting these games played. And then just looking at them in my closet needing to be played, like that was causing me stress. And then when I would finally want to play them and get to play them, then I would look at other games that I hadn't played for a while, and that would be causing me stress because those were good games and they should be played, and that insanity of that. So it was kind of just this idea, and I'm not saying that I have a particular view that is better than others on this. I'm just kind of curious how other people deal with this or think about this. Because I don't know, I just like how the human brain works and different people's versions of reality.
I have an answer.
Yeah.
I have a very fun answer.
What's that?
Get a second job and ignore your wife completely.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if I ignored that anymore, then acquisition disorder in terms of time to play them wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Sure.
Money might be because of child payments.
Sure,
but,
sure.
but anyway, but no, I am really curious as to how people view this, because I think initially my thoughts were, I've bought all these, I should hold on to these and I should play them. And if I'm not playing them, then I'm doing something wrong. But yet new games kept coming in. So how did I stay on top of that? So I guess like what do you guys think of like your collections? Does it cause you stress like it does me in those similar situations? Is it a problem for you to just flip a game and get rid of it to buy a different game or things like that?
Trent, you wanna go first here?
My stress is entirely not based on my game collection, but on my time to play. It has nothing to do with my game collection. I get enjoyment out of the games that I keep because I enjoy reading the rule books. I enjoy the opportunities that I get to play them. But I might be in a different situation because I have been collecting for a very, very long time, and my wife and I have some agreed upon restrictions on how large my game collection can be. And I just stick within that and don't worry about it. I don't know. For me, the size of my collection is not a stressor much at all. The only stressor I ever have is sometimes it'll feel like my collection is a little on the big side. I just need to downsize it, and it's choosing which ones to downsize. I don't ever feel guilty about the size of my game collection, ever. I don't feel stressed about it either. Just not. My stress is finding time to play, which is really the challenge for me.
Yeah, and I think I have a similar situation to that as well, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm quite similar to that, Trent. I mean, my wife and I have just finished moving. One of the big things that we looked for in our new house was places for both me and my wife to have like our hobbies, like have dedicated space for. My wife got a dyeing room for the fabric scarves that she dyes. That's right next to the washer and dryer here in our basement, and it has like an unfinished floor so she can spill stuff and it's fine. She got a whole nother room that can be sort of like the other types of art room where because she does all kinds of art projects. Dyeing silk scarves is just one of the many things that she does. And then I have a game room, and I have used this game room. I'm actually sitting in it right now. My office is also part of it, but like I've used my game room once to play one single game on one night, and two people came, and it's because of my time restriction. And to me though, like it's not so much about that's what causes me stress is when I look, because Andy, I have that same sort of feeling where I look at my collection and I start to feel a sadness instead of like that sort of happiness that I like should be feeling when I look at my game collection. I think though for me it's weird. I used to have my games in the living room and dining room area of our house. Like there was one bookcase in the living room, one bookcase in the dining room, or two in the dining room. And so it was just right there out in the living space. Sometimes I get to play them, sometimes I wouldn't. And they were there, and I would look at the shelves, and they would just kind of like remind me of, like Trent said, the things that we love about them, the rule books and stuff. And, not just the rule books. I mean, the rule books just get you back into the concepts that the game has you swimming in. And here it's like I don't get that anymore because I have to come down to the basement to look at my game collection. And so I see my game collection like, I mean, I even have to turn on the light in the back half of the basement. And right now I don't even have that. I've got the light above my computer, and then the rest of it's dark, and I'm not looking at my game collection. It's that same sort of stressor, Andy, but it has nothing to do with like the acquiring. It's just that like that sort of feeling of when something is going to misuse, whenever you see somebody, I know this is kind of a sales ploy. When you're trying to sell something, you're like, oh, I want it to find a better home where it'll get played more. And that's the way that I feel like about most of my collection right now, because I've been working like 70 hours a week with tennis and, just the exhaustion that comes with that. And we're still getting settled into the new house. So, but yeah, I mean, does that sort of answer your question?
I think so. And I think for me, like one of the things that's changed, because I think there's sort of a natural progression to the hobby.
Yes,
I would hear about.
There definitely is. Yeah.
Where, you start off at the beginning and you're just like, ooh, must have it. Ooh, must have it. And like you just keep grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. And then I think there's also in that time span where you feel like if a game's a classic or if your friend owns a copy and you really liked it, that you should also own a copy, even if that's not getting played, but it's a cool game, so I should have it. And this is like one of the things I've been like trying to restructure the way I think about my games is that, you know, you can only really like, there's so much content in the world, you can't consume all of it. It's just not physically possible. And so what I've tried to get around in my brain is the concept of, yes, there are lots of great games out there that I just don't need to own. Like, you know, just being okay with that. That, yes, that is an absolutely awesome game. Like, for example, my biggest example right now that I can think of for that is the Brass Kickstarter.
This is keep going, Andy. Sorry.
No, but legitimately, like, don't get me wrong. I think everything is right about that Kickstarter. It looks beautiful. Brass is a wonderful game. It's one like I feel like as a heavy gamer I should own. But in reality, there's lots of economic games out there that I want to play, and a lot in my collection I want to spend more time with. And so I'm probably going to pass on it. Not because I think it's...
Andy, if you had a bunch of heavy gamer friends who were kind of disconnected from like Kickstarter, you know, imagine that you don't have me and Trent here. Would you then be more apt to buy it? Because I think honestly, like, it's almost feels like your game collection is almost a group responsibility. It's like I have this specific niche of board games. You know, like for me, it tends to be I appreciate theme but don't need it. I like Euro style games. I like heavier games, but I mean, I don't want to sound anything condescending. I'll just leave it at that. And I feel like, you know, when a game comes out, I need to evaluate, like, is this one quote unquote in my wheelhouse? Is it one that if I want played, I'm going to need to buy it? And so I quickly run through, like, you know, first of all, I run through like friends and family, because for me, like, I feel like I'm never a reason enough to buy a game. So I've got to think, you know, like, would my wife like this? Would my brother like this? Because those are people who never buy themselves games. And that's why I exist. To buy them games, you know, that's the whole point. Like, I work so that I can afford money to then buy games for them. And then the next thought is, you know, like the people I'm actually playing with a lot, because I rarely ever get a chance to play with my brother, and my wife is, you know, generally she's more interested in the art in a board game than she is in the actual gameplay. You know, then I start thinking about our group and like what, you know, the type of games that, for example, I've recently really loved the experiences I've had with two Splatter games, specifically Indonesia and Great Zimbabwe. Like, I really love both of those games. And there was a great sale to get them at half of the price that they normally are. But I still didn't get it. Like, I've probably felt the same way you did about the Brass Kickstarter, Andy. It's like, no, these guys already own it. If I want to play it, I just drop a message to them, and then we'll just play it.
I don't think I was thinking along those lines even at the time, because I think at the time the only one I was talking to that might have been getting it was Trent, and I think at that time Trent, did you ultimately end up backing that or not? I can't remember.
Backing which one?
The Brass Kickstarter.
Yes. Okay,
so because I think at the time I had talked to you, you were only at the like $1 level, and you were.
I was at the $1, but once I finally saw everything that went into it, I decided to back it.
Right, and so at the time, I made kind of the decision.
I also want to say that the playthrough of Birmingham helped.
Yeah, that looked good.
Okay, anyway, we go on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that really entered my mind. It was more like the thought that the amount of time for gaming. This game looks phenomenal in every respect. Like, if I had backed it, I wouldn't have felt guilty about it. It was just like, this is a great game, but do I really need to own it? Like, if I don't play it, is my life somehow diminished? And the answer was like, really, for any game is, no, not really. I mean, I can play other great games. And so it kind of let me get around this problem of like, for a long time, it was like, this is a great game. I should own it. Therefore, I should buy it. And that's part of what I've been trying to break the habit of doing with myself, and instead like think, this is a great game, playing it, how much more would I enjoy playing it over what I've got? You know, like Brass is a phenomenal game, but am I going to want to play it more than Age of Steam, another Martin Wallace economic game? Probably not. I love Age of Steam. Am I going to want to play it over? No, absolutely. I don't mean to equate them in that way, but I mean, if you see where I'm getting at, there's games I have that I haven't, in my mind, yet gotten my money's worth out of them or given them the time that they're really due. And so I've been trying to find ways to slow down my acquisition to like really hone it into what it is I want most out of games and really focus in on that. And
well, if what happens if let's hypothetical situation here that Splotter is releasing a new game, it's going to cost you $150.
Right.
Do you get
Which is probably going to happen if they ever kick out Antiquity. I don't know. I really like Splotter has a really good track record with me, and that's what I'm saying. You know, that's kind of going into what I'm thinking here, because in reality, like the Brass Kickstarter's finishing here this week, I think. There's other Kickstarters for games that are even economic games that look like they would totally be in my wheelhouse. Everything I've heard says Antiquity's getting a reprint. Okay, I've got, you know, let's say $700 worth of games coming out in the next 3 months that I probably all of them would have a good time with. I don't have $700. So where do I invest in that time? And then ultimately, in my mind, how do I then not feel bad about that? Because I think there is a tendency, especially early on in the hobby, and I think I'm hitting that point where I'm moving past that, where you think, well, I should own a copy of that. And that's kind of what I'm wrestling with in my brain, how to kind of go past that point to go, you know what? No, it's a great game. It's a wonderful game. I would play that game in a heartbeat.
I think, yeah, I understand the problem that you're talking about, Andy, but I also, I think I take issue with your suggestion of a solution. Like, I think that you know, everybody has their own sort of, you know, like limit as to where, because like, you know, there are people like the guy at the Dice Tower, Jason Levine, who just buys every single game that comes out, you know, because he likes everything. And then there are people like, you know, that don't buy any games, that don't even really research games, that just come for like a social experience on a Wednesday night. And
my problem is this. I think I can sum up my game acquisition issue with this. I would buy different games if I had my ideal opponents available to me at all times versus what I actually have for opponents at all times.
So true. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't mean to suggest that there's a solution to this. What I'm really referring to is like the way my brain has been developing about it. It's more like how I've been thinking about it, but that doesn't begrudge someone who wants to, like, there are people, like you said, Jason Levine, or there are people that get tremendous enjoyment out of being Cult of the New, that they just literally want to buy a game, play it once or twice, either keep it or sell it, buy the next game, play it once or twice. And that's great for them. Like, I don't begrudge that or belittle that or think that that's somehow lesser to what I want to do. And like I said, that's why I brought up the topic, was not to propose a solution, but just to see about it. Like, are other people thinking the same way I am or not?
I don't think I am, Andy. I really don't think so. I think that, like, I think that when a great game comes out like Brass, I think that I don't know. I think that you have like a system of priorities that you're not really acknowledging in your solution that you mentioned. Like, because like my mention of Antiquity, like I don't think you ever quite answered what I was saying, because I think that for you, it's like there's a hierarchy of what's most important. You know, if Splotter were to come out with a brand new game that was, all you knew about it. Let's say, Andy, in 2 weeks you're going to HeavyCon. Maybe you figure out there at HeavyCon, because there's probably going to be some sort of announcement that Splotter is going to have a new game releasing in a couple of months. You play it, you think it's fun, but you already know that you've got this many games and they're not getting played. Are you going to support it? And I would absolutely call BS on you if you said no, because you're going to do that because you see like this is my identity in the hobby. And I think that really your board games that you own become an expression of your own identity in the hobby. It's, that's what you want to support the most. For me, there's a Kickstarter right now that I am currently backing. That's by the people who made Spirits of the Rice Paddy and Great Dinosaur Rush. It's called MOA, and it's designed by Martin Wallace. So it's only an hour long, which kind of worries me because I wanted this to be a little bit more of an involved experience. But you know how this game won me over? It is using extinct and endemic animals to, like, I want to say New Zealand. I think it's Maori, like the Moa. Instinct and endemic animals to sort of be an allegory of the colonial process in New Zealand, I believe. Like you have these different, these sort of invading what would be considered pests that are invading, and to me, like, what that pulls at my heartstrings, because I think like I like the idea of using these different animals that actually some of them went extinct and other ones are just kind of like relegated to like small, recovery efforts. And like that's where they're at. And that's the same way as these native peoples. Like, we spread like a disease. And to me, that's an expression of my identity in the board gaming hobby, is that, like maybe this game comes out and it's not going to be that great, but that's also part of why I like podcasting. I like being able to tell people, like, is this game good? Is this game worth your time? This is why I bought it. Should you buy it? That's your decision.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And I mean, like I said, part of the reason I brought this up was my thinking, but part of it is like I've heard other people talking about similar topics on other podcasts I listen to with different points of view. Like, why am I buying these games when I got these games to play? Other people going, hey, I don't care if I got other games to play. These games are great too. Like, just
the
different people
stages,
and the way they
right,
approach
Andy.
their playing.
Stages is right, because I think that you start into the hobby and I think your first thought is, I need a game for this circumstance. And so when people sell a game, a lot of times when people finish their review, they're like, if you're looking for a game that does this, this, and this, then get this one. And your listeners that are new to the hobby aren't going to be able to necessarily foresee what you've said, Trent, which is that your ideal opponents aren't always available. There's a lot of other factors you can't see, but you just picture yourself in this ideal situation, which is just a great marketing strategy to make people do. And then you think, like, do I want to see myself there? And the answer is either yes or no, and that's going to be up subjectively to the actual person. And I think that once you're past that initial state where you're very susceptible to that sort of marketing, where you're sort of imagining yourself in ideal situations, you get into like that sort of more like realistic place where like, am I actually gonna get this game played? And for me, like, if I feel like I'm gonna get the game played because of somebody else buying the game in my group, and I'm never gonna get it played outside of that, then I usually will not buy that game because somebody else is going to, unless I feel like it's a specific direct expression of my own personality. Like, I think Jonathan, who we haven't heard from in ages, hopefully he's still hooked up here. Jonathan, they're releasing a new thing for the Firefly game.
I already had it.
All right. And I think it's like, it's an expression, you know what I mean? It's an expression of your identity in a lot of ways. And I think in that way it can feel like a collection. And that's, I don't know, like, that's where I think I toy, or I guess I flip-flop back and forth between, like, is it a collection? Because I like to call it a library, because I like to think that, if the game isn't getting played, I move it on. But then there are games I hang on to because I want them to get played, even if they're not. And I make excuses for keeping them.
Yeah, and I think, like, another thing, I've been looking at what I own and what I'm thinking of is I think I'm moving out of that phase where you like you said, like, you feel like you need a game for every occasion kind of thing, to where other people I know have that. And so I'm looking at a lot of games I own and go, am I ever going to be the one asking to play this again? And if the answer is no, I probably am putting it on the sell pile at that point.
I like that line, Andy, a lot. Am I going to be the one asking to play this again? If not, I'll get rid of it. I feel like in a lot of ways that sort of, it's selfish, but it's also like, I mean, you know, that the reason you're doing this is because of yourself. Like it's a hobby that I think we can fool ourselves at times thinking that we're getting into it because of how much we love the social experience, everybody having a great time together. And I want to be the catalyst for that with my game collection. But then you start to realize like this, like when you buy a game to play with that specific person and then you don't see that person for 5 years. And then every time you visited home, you've given them a call and they've been too busy with other parts of their life, to ever give you time of day. And you're like, you know what? Screw that type of game. And there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of other social factors that can be a part of it. And I hope that other people can share what I just said, because I know that kind of sounds like a really depressing thought. But
damn them, I hate them.
Well, I mean, I get it, because for me, like, yeah, I mean, I kind of get it, because for me, like, the board gaming is part social and part self-care. And there's a certain experience that gets me feeling better about the world out of gaming. And, like I've said before, for me, that's not party games. And so I do have some party games that I'm like, you know what, these just need to move out, because I'm not going to be the one that asks to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if somebody else owns it and asks to play it, like, in the right circumstances, I'm not saying I would say no to that, but why do I need a copy of it? I'm not going to be the one asking for it.
It's interesting, Andy, to hold a mirror up to yourself so frequently, and also to your own collection, and to see that, because I think though that we need to do that at times, because there are times when we hold on to games because we're holding on to a piece of our past, and it's time to move on.
Yeah. Well, and if there's one thing I've learned in the last few years, it's all kinds of mental health stuff. So, but I don't know. It's just an interesting idea to me of how different people approach the hobby. I don't like getting into the mode of thinking my way is the only way, but the only way you really find out something different is by talking about it with people, see what motivates them and why they do it. Like, I don't begrudge people that just want to play gateway games, and that's wonderful, and play what you want. I just can't do that. It does not make me happy at a game night to play Settlers of Catan. If I do that, I'm doing it because I care about the other people there and I want them to have a good time. It's not making me have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like you need your sort of like self time, and for you to play those games, it's not that sort of self, me time. And I think though that, Andy, if you had, let's just say, that you had, were sponsoring an activity similar to what I do with the game group after school, I think that you might start making space in your collection for those things. But, that would also include more changes than just that. I think, it's a pretty big thing to take on, heading a game night for community or something like that.
Right. And I mean, if you do look at my collection, it reflects that, because, what is getting cold out of my collection right now? It's mostly, but when I say light, I'm talking light hobby gamer. So hobby games, for example, that I have on my shelves are staying there. Why? Because my 8-year-old will play them and enjoy them with me. And honestly, if I did a middle schooler one, hobby games work great for that too. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so that stays in my collection. The heavy economic stays in my collection. A few medium games stay in my collection. But that's sort of like above Ticket to Ride, but not quite at Agricola size. That's the ones I'm really looking at and going, does this really need to be here anymore? And I don't know. Like I said, I'm fascinated by the way I'm thinking about it, but I'm also fascinated by the way other people approach it. And so that my way is the only way and that other people are wrong for thinking that way. That wasn't my intent. I just honestly wanted to know how other people view their collections.
Sure. No, yeah, that wasn't. I don't think that was what I took issue with, Andy. I think I think it's been an interesting discussion.
Yep.
It has. I think that we've really gotten to something deeper, which is always the goal. I really appreciate when you're passionate about a topic, Andy, and bring it up like this. I think a lot of times I feel like it's one of those where you get this sort of feeling like almost like a frustrated feeling when you're dealing with I feel like I've been betrayed by this game. Like this game, I bought it because I thought it was going to be fun, and then I find that like all the social situations in which I would play this game are not doing for me what I am wanting from this hobby. And I think that,
okay, go ahead.
No, you go.
I just look through my collection every once in a while, and I go to each game and I go, am I happy that this is on my shelf? And if the answer is no, it's definitely at the very least going up for trade. Because why am I keeping it if it doesn't make me happy?
It's a good point. John, I think you recently unloaded a few games. How did you decide to do that?
Oh, I was broke. That was just simply it.
No, something's got to go here.
For me, I have the problem of a collection that will never end. And every time I will look at my collection like Trent does, and I don't look at them and go, what am I not playing? I go, where do I find room for more? And I don't know if it's because I'm just not at a point like you guys are with the stages of I don't feel the need to not have more. And it may just be because I work in a game store. I have the ability to get these games that I want, that I picked for trade credit, which is what I work for. It's not me spending money for them. So granted, yes, I am spending time to do it, but I'm using that time, a lot of the time, to either A, play games, or B, in a place that I was just going to be there anyway. So I have that luxury, and not too many people do. So, and when it comes to me having to sell a game, if the money situation does come up and I need to sell a game, I will pretty much look at the bottom of the list of the games that I don't even want to say don't play, because I want to play every game that I own. And I look at the ones and go, all right, which ones do I feel enough other people have that I would still be able to get to play that game? Because that is another benefit of this hobby, is we get to play games and we don't have to buy them all, because these games are made for the most part to play with other people. So you can hope somebody else has these games. There's going to be those games where everybody's probably going to want a copy for the sake of playing with family or something like that. But for the most part, we don't all need to own a copy of Feast for Odin. But for some strange reason, we all do.
No, Andy doesn't. Andy doesn't. Well, Andy doesn't.
Andy doesn't count. But I'm just saying, it's just one of those things where I don't know why we do it. It may be because it's a soloable game in that particular example, and it may just because we want to look at our collection and it be just that, a collection. Some people collect comics, and I promise you they're not going to read through every one of those comics, and very rarely are they ever going to go back and read those comics. They have it to have that collection. A lot of them don't even want the value. They just want that collection. And that's how I personally feel. And that's why like I said, I just have the luxury to be able to continue to get games how I'm able to. One day, I'm not going to be. One day, I'm going to probably have a kid and not have the time to work at the store, and my collection is going to start to diminish, and I'm going to go, well, this sucks, but I have what I have, and that's great. And one day, I will be able to play that with my kid.
Yep. And I think to wind it up, Joe, we'll see if you get this right, because a couple other people didn't. What's the one game from my past that is never going on the auction pile?
Money, Money, Moose Moose.
That one I put on the auction.
Is this about you, Andy?
One would I never put on the auction pile from my past.
I mean, from your actual past, I would just say Mage Knight, but that's and if you consider that from your past.
Oh no, that one wouldn't go on there anyway. I'm talking the ones you would think should be there.
Alien
I'm trying to
Frontier.
Space Alert.
Yep, Alien Frontier.
Are you serious? Alien Frontiers? You know what though, Andy? Here's the thing though. Your thoughts about why you wouldn't sell Alien Frontiers, because I have some insider information here. I think what you mentioned is what you would want from that game is something people would not be willing to pay. Is that true?
Well, that's part of it. No, wait. What did I say for that?
That was what you told me, and I feel that way about most of the games that I would be happily ready to just unload. Is like, you know, but the process of going through, you know, finding a buyer, working out like the transportation of the game is just not worth it. It's like it taking up space on my shelf, especially now that I've got a full game room, you know. And I know that that's not a permanent solution, but maybe someday it'll be worth more anyway.
This is the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, it's a sunk cost fallacy. And what I really need to do though, Trent, is something where I just list like 50 games and then I just do it all at once. And I usually do that like once every summer. I have like a purge. So that's like kind of like where I'm waiting on like getting rid of. By the way, Andy, Alien Frontiers, garbage.
No, I'm keeping that one just because there's sentimental value, if nothing else. It was like the first game that kind of just blew my mind of what the hell can you do in a game? I don't know. I'm keeping it. Don't care. Even if I never play it again.
Here are 20 games I don't want anymore. I'm selling them all for $1 each, best offer.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do that again here soon. I'll do an auction for the games that I think are worth something on BGG, and then I'll just be like, hey, local people, anybody, $1 or whatever.
I got one I may just literally bring to Mayhem and put on the shelf.
What is it?
What's that?
Strain, I think. It's not good.
Don't even wish that on anyone. Don't want to be responsible for the person who put that in their life.
Exactly.
All right, guys, let's hype games. Let's talk about what games we're looking forward to playing or getting. Yay! I'm looking forward to a Martin Wallace game because I already talked about that a little bit. Studying of Emerald, 2nd edition. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he mixes together deck building and then the Neil Gaiman world of Sherlock Holmes meets Cthulhu and Hidden Roles. And it just, to me, seems like something that's going to take a lot of ideas into realms that I am not used to seeing them. That's my hype.
I love Neil Gaiman.
John will play
love
this
Neil
game.
Gaiman seriously so much. And I mean, I know it has nothing to do with board games, but if you're not watching American Gods, oh my God. You're a dummy. I love Neil Gaiman. I love
it on
Neil
like
Gaiman.
Netflix or something, or
Stars, I think is what it's on. So I mean, just find a way to watch it. I don't care. Find a way to watch it. But if you haven't read the book, read the book first. And I'm not going to be one of those jerks that are be like, the book's so much better than the show. No, they are equally awesome because Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman. And if I haven't mentioned it, I love Neil Gaiman.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
You also love Dungeons and Dragons?
I do, but not as much as Neil Gaiman. That's why. But I'm still going to hype Dragonfire. Dragonfire, I guess, is a deck builder, another D&D deck builder, and I guess based off the Shadowrun Crossfire engine that came out that I had honestly never even heard of. But it's D&D and it's deck builder. Even though I haven't played, Tyrants and something.
Tyrants of the Underdark.
Tyrants of the Underdark. I have not played that one yet. Trent keeps telling me I should play it, and I know I need to play it. But I still will, and then I will play, hopefully one day, Dragonfire, the D&D deck builder. Even though it's not Neil Gaiman written.
Tyrants of the Underdark.
What if Neil Gaiman wrote D&D fan fiction?
If Neil Gaiman wrote a D&D module, I would immediately drop the group that I have right now. I would go, all right, whatever we're doing right now, you can just rocks fall, party dies. You guys lost to this module. We're doing this one right now.
Rocks fall, party dies. Is this like that sounds like a meme.
There's a thematic solution to that. You just send them into Ravenloft.
No, I haven't even done Ravenloft with these ones yet. No,
Oh.
honestly, I just kind of the Demogorgon is out with them anyway, so they can just show up and
party die.
yeah. No, that is the if you really want to if your PCs are starting to take you off, the meme is Rocks fall, party dies. Or I like to do if Cthulhu shows up in power armor, just go ahead and roll initiative.
Rocks fall, party dies. We were out in the open.
It was a meteor.
I don't know. I love the doors that you opened to me, John. It's funny.
I'm going to get you into a D&D game one day, even if it's just a one shot. I'm going to get you in a D&D game.
It just makes me smile. No, I'd be I'd be cool with doing that. I would really like to see more. So anyway, maybe the D&D deck building game will please you. I doubt that it would though give the experience that you're wanting me to get in terms of.
Well, not if it's not written by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, I'm just going to segue here into Trent's hype because I'm interested in what exactly it is. I know nothing about it.
It's Path of Light and Shadow. It's a deck building game from Indie Board and Cards. I was very pleasantly surprised by the last game, Aeon's End, and this one looks really interesting. It's a highly player interactive deck building game. Takes 1 to 2 hours. Sounds rather heavy, like fairly heavy, I would say. And actually, reading through what is available on it, it reminds me of a heavier version of Tyrants of the Underdark. So, yeah,
I think there was dice on this Kickstarter page because I think it's slowly coming back to me. I think I may have looked at it.
Yep, there's some dice.
And then saw dice and ran away.
Dice for combat resolution is what it said. And I would have to say that what I did is I clicked the save this project, or whatever, remind me so I could wait till I had more time to evaluate whether or not they were used in a way that would not cause me to just go into a corner and start crying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Andy, you get to. Well, that's the way the path of light and shadow. I guess follow the path of shadow.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm interested in it, but let's hear about a game that I think has been P500'd, right, Andy?
Yeah. So this is Mr. President, a game on GMT's lovely P500 list that's slated for next year. I didn't initially P500 this, but I heard it from it for a couple people. And so it's basically a 4 to 8 hour solo simulation where you get to play the president in an ever-changing landscape and try to basically spend your political capital as best you can to get the outcomes you wish for your country. And there's one very specific reason I finally decided to P500 this, so that I can play this simulation for 8 hours, and then I can say, then, after doing this, I'm more qualified to lead the country than certain recent people.
Andy, I think just clicking the P500 button on this game might make you more qualified to be president than certain people.
I had a student I told that to, and he said something. He's like, just because you played a board game, that would make you more qualified. I'm like, sadly enough, yep, that's where the bar is right now. But
yes.
No, anyway, and honestly, it does sound like a pretty cool solo simulation where you really have some really hard decisions to make. And that's a theme that's kind of unique, where it's not a solo war game per se. So I don't know. It's P500 now. I'm interested in it. With GMT, they haven't charged me or anything. It's not a Kickstarter. So, I can always wait until they are near final development and finally go, yeah, you know what? Nah, I don't need
Pull
it.
the rug out from
and,
under them.
Yep, no harm, no foul, whatever. But
it's more like P499.
No, this is it. Well, is beyond that mark. So, anyway, it looks intriguing, and that the more I think about it, the more that theme sounds kind of interesting. So, anyway, that's Mr. President. GMT coming out next year.
I'm excited by this one. Trent, I think that you have talked about this one in the past.
Yep, I'm similarly excited. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's solo this one together.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll bring it to the next tabletop day and just sit beside each other and like do like toddlers do, where they have like, non-interactive side-by-side play.
Yeah,
here's
we
a-
should do that. That'd be hilarious.
Non-interactive side-by-side.
We're just sitting there playing solo. Are you guys playing together? No, individually.
Well, here's the question: if we had like an uninvolved participant, say like I don't know how exactly the game is structured. Is the randomness in this game going to mainly come from the cards, like a card deck?
Dice in there somewhere, but I don't know.
Well, I just wonder, like if you stacked the set, like if there's no shuffling throughout the game, if you stacked the card deck such that
Mhm.
it had, the exact same line, like where you worked through the card deck, and it was the same cards at the same time, it'd be interesting to see, how a few different people, essentially run your sort of like experimental tests and see how they react.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. And see what it is, Mr. President.
Yep.
The real question is, will there be a Trump card?
And that's all the time we have on this episode.
No.
Good on the board. And the ugly. I'm your host, Joe Sallin. I've been joined by
Jonathan Pierce.
Andrew Dennison.
Tyrants of the Underdark.
Oh God.
Yeah, we hope you have a great week of gaming, and catch us all next week together with Trent Ham on the good, the bored, and the ugly.
And stop. Yeah.
All right. All right.
I
Hey,
always
Joe.
love it.
Sorry, guys.
You gotta go.
Sorry,
John.
just real quick. I just want to let people know. Josh asked me if you guys can make sure that you do post your things tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Yep, mine will be up. For me, now that I'm living this different place, it takes like a good 20 minutes or so for the whole process.
Jeez.
But it's consistent, which is great. By the way, have any of you guys heard of the game, the What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yeah.
No.
It's a computer game? Yeah.
What?
It's a computer game, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
I just played it last night, and I just thought it was very, very intriguing. Something I wanted to share with somebody else who also was going to play it or was interested in playing it or something, but I wouldn't want to ruin it for you. It's just a game that's allowed a whole family dying, but it's not sad. It's more than just sad, which is what's interesting.
Nice.
All the craps.
All right, gents. Well, I need to go pay attention to my wife for the first time this week. So.
Yay! Goodbye.
Okay, see you later.
See you guys later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So next week I can just go ahead and share the thing with you guys now. I'm just gonna make a copy here. I'm gonna say episode 116 is gonna be HeavyCon.
HeavyCon.
HeavyCon hype or something, HeavyCon preparations.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Oh yeah.
Tyrants of the Underdark. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, the episode title of this one's probably going to be The Good, the Bad, and the Tyrants of the Underdark.
Yep, may as well.
Nice. May as well be. Oh God. All right.
So I'll be there on Sunday, but I probably won't be there until like Andy time or even later.
I might be similarly too. So it is Mother's Day, so I got to make sure the wife is all cool.
Yep.
And whatnot. I think I can probably get away with coming, but I can't be like, honey, can you eat your Mother's Day dinner rather quickly so I can go gaming? That's probably
Yeah.
Probably not the best of moves. Let's see. But I just realized like next week is my last full week of school left.
Because of HeavyCon?
Because like the week after that's HeavyCon, and the week after that's the last week of school, and it's done on Thursday.
Yeah. So you guys are going till when? Like that's May or June 1st?
Yeah, about June 1st.
I think we're done on that Tuesday for kids. So we're like May 30th, and then the teachers are done a day or two later.
Let's see. Oh, this is a RAR file. Now I got to go find something to open that.
WinRAR, yeah.
Roar.
No, that. Yay. Okay, I got it opened.
Shank candy.
What do we got on that? What do you have to make for that? Oh, is it just cards? That's easy.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, pretty much looks like just cards.
I just sent Andy a PNP file, Trent, for the expansion to Steampunk Rally. Maybe it's in prototype form, so.
There's okay.
What?
Oh, I was just looking at some of the cards. Oh, there's a new track too. Ah, I see.
I haven't looked at it because I don't have anything to open it either. I don't have anything that opens WinRAR files. RAR.
Yeah. Who the hell uses it anymore? I mean, really? Come on.
It's like used by people who pirate shit online. That's the only reason I've ever done it before.
You know why? Because nobody else has a way to open it. That's why they pirate it.
Yeah, you can't get the damn thing opened anyway.
You know, that's what's going on with that. Yeah, this should be no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know
It's
if you
pretty
came
much,
out like
yeah,
really
just all
strong
cards.
in that, but yeah, I had a buddy back home that I played I want to say like Cyclades and Kemet with.
Yeah.
And like I bought so many games just all in this hopes that I'd eventually like get a chance to play with him again. And then I want to say it was like 3 times in a row I went back home to visit, and I called him, and I'd called him like weeks in advance, and he'd been like, "Oh, sure, yeah, just give me a call, the day of, and we'll get things set up." And it fell through every time. And like I planned with my parents from back home, like we were planning on having him over or going to see him, and like I was gonna have my parents join me, or he was gonna come to my parents' house, and it just felt to me like it was really rude. It got to the point where it's like, this is just rude and repetitive that I'm making all these plans when I come home about you, who's just a friend of mine. Like my parents, who I should be caring about, are cool with it, and I don't know. I just felt bad. So it's like, guess what? Not buying any more games, thinking of you, asshole. And then you guys learn that he's my little brother.
Yep. He had cancer and you felt horrible. No.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, every time I complain about something now, like one of the guys,
something like that actually.
One of the tennis coaches at this tennis meet today, like I met him like last year, right? He's the shop teacher at Webster City. And like today when he was talking, I was talking to him and I was like, "So do you coach football now?" And he's like, "No. My wife died of cancer 7 months ago." And before this, I knew that he had a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Yep, that would be rough.
Like, before I complain about anything, that's what I need to think about, because that is, it's like that sort of first world problems thing. And
but truth, but there is something to be said for those are big to you, and that does matter. Like there was talking about something hard she had going on, and then she asked me how I was doing, and it was like the week after I put Anna back in Orchard Place. So I described all that. She's like, "Oh my, yeah, like I kind of feel bad for bringing up my problems." I'm like, "No, dude, like your problems are important to you. It's not a game of one-upsmanship." But
no, yeah, but I mean, like like the loss, just the thought of like that sort of loss.
Oh yeah, no kidding. That would be rough.
I mean, it's not so much for myself that I would feel that way. He's got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Yeah, that.
He had to move back in with his parents.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. It's hard to care for kids like that. That would be rather difficult. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and then what was I? I can't even. There was something I was going to tell you, but I can't remember. Anyway, I should probably go to bed. It's late.
Yeah, I know. On that note, Andy goes to bed.
Yep, pretty much.
I didn't mean to make it all sad, but
no, it's fine. I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. I've become so able to like not have my feelings terribly influenced by others at this point.
That makes you sound like a psychopath, Andy. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the ability to let it get to me too much because I've had to build up that barrier with Anna, or things are not so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Not that I, don't have empathy or anything, but I guess what I'm trying to say, Joe, is I'm planning to kill you.
Yeah, and it's kind of interrupted your whole plans to kill me here.
Yeah, now you're sad. I can't kill you while you're sad. I've got to wait till you're at the peak of happiness because then it tastes better.
Yes, it feels so much better to hit somebody like that when they're yes.
Andy, if necessary, I have access to polonium-210.
Great. Thanks, Trent.
What do you mean? It looks like you can make it look like you're putting salt on someone's food, and the next thing they know, their face is rotting.
Jeez,
yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. Just so y'all know.
Time to go to bed.
Thinly veiled threats.
That would be like that girl I had last year that, like, the last day of school, she was like, Mr. Dennison, I kept a journal of all the weird things you said over the last 2 years. And I was like, Autumn, taken out of context, that's possibly legally actionable.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we got along well, so it was okay. But
well,
yeah.
All right, I'll see you guys on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll catch you guys. I'll see you guys on Sunday. I'll be bringing Kemet. We don't have to play it. If it's the only game you guys get to play, we can just hold it off until later. But anyway, I'll bring it just in case.
If Kemet was the only game we played, that'd still be a good night.
Yep, I'm fine with it. I signed up to play it 5 times. I'd rather get through the series so we can get onto my game.
That's what I thought too. I'll keep bringing it. All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, night, dude. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.